The best young pass catchers set to break out in 2017. These are the young guys that are still on their rookie deal that are going to be a big deal this season. And right out the gate, let's go to Miami Dolphins wide receiver Devante Parker. Now, this young man is talented. We know they brought him there for speed. Now, what you're going to know with this list, though, it's not just about the individual. You got to think about the quarterback, the running back, and even the other wide receivers. Now, you got Ajayi running the ball on this team, which means defenses are going to have to game plan for that. Jarvis Landry, Steals, already the number 2. That's a duo that teams are going to have to contend with. So when you look at this young man, 24 years old, third NFL season, he's 6'3", about 210. Now, that's a frame for a third wide receiver. Now, think about that matchup problem. When teams come in, they say, we got to worry about the running back. Now, we got to worry about Jarvis. We also got Kenny Stills over here. Devante Parker, if he does what he needs to do, he can find himself with a lot of money in his pocket.
I like that highlight reel, but for fantasy, so inconsistent.
And he was a first-round pick, Nate. He's been a disappointment. So you're talking about he's a great third receiver. I mean, I could find other third receivers. I want my Devante Parker first-round pick to be a first-round guy.
Exactly, but it doesn't always work out like that.
By the way,
Peter,
our role in this is
to
poke holes.
We've been watching this sport for a long time, okay? The first-rounders don't pan out initially, but here's the thing. That's why it could be a breakout. All of a sudden, they'll say, that's why we got him in the first round, and you get paid after having a breakout year.
744 receiving yards last season, and he hit 1,000.
He can hit 1,000. They can have 3 receivers in 1,000. Now, the touchdowns, hard to come by within that offense. Yeah, even Jarvis Landry struggled to get in the end zone a little bit. Now, let's move to another young pass catcher. Now, this list, it isn't just wide receivers. We got to go to the Texans. Tight end C.J. Fiedorowicz. Now, here's the thing about this. Big frame. We're talking 6'6", 265, and you know that there's weapons on top of weapons on top of weapons. You got DeAndre Hopkins, you got Will Fuller, you got Braxton Miller, you got Lamar Miller, you got all these different guys that can anchor this offense. But what we saw last year, and we joked about it, you see Brock Osweiler, obviously he's not there, but now you got Tom Savage, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're a tight end and you're getting the ball as much as he did last year, you're still going to be a consistent fixture on the team. So you're not all of a sudden going to stop throwing him the rock. What he did last year.
Week 15.
But listen, what he did last year was a chance to prove to the new squad, the new coach, the new quarterback that, listen, I'm going to be the guy you can go to. So I'm looking for him to have a huge season. He's going to be a consistent piece. What do you think about that, Shrey?
I think he had his breakout year kind of last year. And again, becoming to that Kelsey Gronkowski conversation. That's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Osweiler had the emoji with the hard eyes for CJ
Osweiler loved him some CJ Fiedorowicz.
He hit him all the time. And then you put DeAndre Hopkins in there when you had Tom Savage, and he got hit with 17 targets in there.
He's only 25 years old. He had 4 TDs last year. 2 in the previous 2 seasons. So you know that he's set to continue to trend upward.
And he's Polish. Next.
There you go. All right. Now let's go all the way up to the Pacific Northwest. Wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, Paul Richardson. And for a lot of people, they're saying, who? P what?
Oh, this guy.
P. Rich. Yeah, we all remember this catch. But listen, they had troubles passing the ball, especially when Tyler Lockett went down, and P. Rich needed to step up. They're saying, you need to come and make plays. He's been in the league for quite some time, battled some injuries, but he stepped up last season. Didn't do much during the regular season, but in the playoffs, the young man was big. He went out there and did his thing. He had 7 catches for 131 in a TD in the 2 playoff games. So when you finish the season as a wide receiver, it's just like being on the basketball court. You want to end on a make, right? You walk off the gym, you feel good. When you walk off the field, even though they didn't go deep into the playoffs, that young man's thinking, you know what? I proved to everybody that I can come in and be a complimentary receiver. You still got Baldwin, still got Kurtz, you got Tyrell Lockett back healthy. But look out for Paul Richardson. He will make a ton of plays this season.
They've been waiting on him. He was another guy they drafted on a day 2 pick a couple years ago, and he really stepped up there. I think the interesting thing is what C.J. Prosise is going to do in that offense, because they're going to use him in a lot of ways also.
Peter, you've got the heart of
When he was healthy, Prosise was awesome.
In the backfield, catching out the backfield. So another set of hands that's going to take away from those receivers with catching the ball.
I like that one. I don't think we talk about the Seahawks enough, so I'll allow it.
All right, now let's go to the San Diego Chargers. And we know the San Diego Chargers have a ton of wide receivers.
LA Chargers, baby, LA.
I got to take a lap after this.
No, it's all good.
Let's go. The LA Chargers. Now, the wide receiver core, deep. You're going to get Keenan Allen back healthy. You got Mike Williams, Travis Benjamin. You got guys going down the list. But a receiver I want you guys to pay attention to, Tyrell Williams. This young man, I think we didn't know who he was up until last year. Keenan Allen goes down that first game, and all of a sudden, this young man who's been sitting on the roster, this big 6'4", 205 frame, quietly puts up 1,000 yards. And for those at home, I need you to understand that putting up 1,000 yards in the NFL is very difficult. That's like averaging 20 points in the NBA. It's tough. Those are elite players. So for a guy to put up 1,000 yards, you can only expect that it's up from here. The one concern I have is that there's so many hands, there's so many guys in that offense catching the ball. But anytime you put up 1,000 yards, young in your career, you got to be a guy that's set out.
And what does that say
with
that 1,000 yards, that chemistry with Phillip Rivers going into this year? That's got to mean something from the quarterback's perspective, right?
It means a ton of chemistry is going to be there starting the season. But then when you look at Mike Williams, Keenan, Inman, Benjamin, Gates, Henry, these are all guys that need to touch the ball. But like you said, Phillip Rivers, last year there was one guy I can count on consistently. And that was Tyrell.
And there's a chance the first-round pick, Mike Williams, to everyone's great dismay, misses the whole season with an injury.
Yep, he's banged up right now.
He's banged up. So Tyrell might have to step up, and they actually might need him to be that guy.
Exactly, 100%. All right, now let's go to my fifth and final young pass catcher set to set out and break out this season. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No, not Mike Evans or Deshaun Jackson. They're too old. Cameron Brate.
I like this.
Listen, now this young man went out there and bought out. Now we're looking at the red zone. We know what Jameis Winston does when he gets in the red zone. He got eyes for the big guy, big frame, 6'5", 230. He had 57 catches, 660 yards. But what I like the most about what he did last year, he had 8 TDs. That's tied for most out of tight ends.
The most.
That's a guy getting in the end zone. So listen, we're going to talk about fantasy. Now, imagine this.
But they drafted O.J. Howard.
That's fine.
And Chris Godwin.
That is completely fine. Now, imagine this. You got Mike Evans lining up on the outside.
Okay.
You put Deshaun Jackson in the slot. O.J. Howard down on the ground. Cameron Brate on the outside. As a defense, you have to literally pick your poison. And if you're Jameis Winston and you know what he did for you last year, aggressive, attacking the ball in the red zone, coming down with it 8 times in the red zone, you're going to continue to feed the young man. You're not going to shy away
if you're
all of a sudden.
Defense, aren't you sort of focusing on him then? And you're saying let's test the rookie and let O.J. score the
No. If you're a defense, you're focused on Mike and Deshaun Jackson, period. You let the rooks go out there and fend for themselves. You let the young players, Cameron Brate, go out there and fend for themselves. And this young man has proved to be one of the best young pass catchers in the league, and he's set to break out. He goes out and does what he needs to do. We'll be talking about him, and those dollar signs will start to stop.
I remember being on the show last August telling you guys that Jameis had a thing with Cameron Brate, this kid from Harvard. The guy this year that I'm going to circle from that team is Chris Godwin, the 3rd-round pick out of Penn State. Everyone's talking about O.J. Howard.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin, he came in. He's a beast physically. Nate, as a guy who loves wide receivers, this is one I want you to watch. He's a burner, big guy.
Big frame.
Tampa is so loaded with talent. They just have to put it all together now.
I love the Burleson's best.
Yeah.
You're the best. Where's Quincy Enunwa on this list?
The reason I didn't have him on this list is because of the quarterback.
Okay.
And I talked about it's not just about the player, it's about the surrounding players. We love Quincy Enunwa. We call him the humble hero. But I got to figure out what's going on with the quarterback situation because, unfortunately, there's been positions guys have been in where they were set to break out, which means let's get that money, and the quarterback didn't fulfill his expectations. And vice versa. The guy was set to break out, and he didn't go out there and do his job as a wide receiver. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, who's actually going to be the starter, if Hackenberg is the guy, and then I can make a decision and say, you know what, Quincy, it's time for you to break out.
Is that the same reason Moncrief isn't on your list? Not that there's questions about luck, but the availability of just of health?
It's the availability of health.
11 touchdowns the last 13 games.
We know that he's a monster. We know that he can be consistent when healthy, but it's the question of being healthy.